Hello and welcome to episode 24 of the Lottie and Albert podcast. My name's Lindsay and I am a crochet designer, editor, podcaster from the Cotswolds in the UK. This is my podcast all about crochet. So a very warm welcome if you are watching for the first time. I hope you enjoy spending a bit of time with us today, and a very warm welcome back if you are a returning viewer. My name, as I said, is Lindsay. I can be found as Lottie and Albert everywhere on the internet. So on Ravelry, Etsy, Instagram is where I can most often be found. And this is episode 24, and it is also my 1 year podcast anniversary. I'm going to resist saying the word podiversary because is that even a word? I'm not sure about that. But yeah, I have been podcasting for 1 year, and you may notice if you're eagle-eyed that I have finally, after a whole year, kept good my promise to get a proper camera. So hopefully I'm going to have enough battery and memory card space, and that I'm not too bright or dark, and that you can still hear me. This is like podcasting for the first time. If you would like a giggle, you can go back and watch the first episode. You can probably tell I was so nervous. Starting new things is always hard, right? But actually putting yourself in front of a camera and then uploading it online turned out to be a lot scarier than I thought. So 1 year on, probably am not much more professional. I still drop a lot of things and ramble, but maybe not quite so nervous as that first episode. So today I'm going to be talking about mostly crochet. I'm going to be talking about finished objects, works in progress and new things. I've had quite a few exciting trips to things over the last few weeks. So I went to Kirsty Allsop's Handmade Fair, which if you're not in the UK is, well, there are 3 every year now, and it's just a big handmade fair celebrating makers and designers, but also there's a really big focus on workshops, which is nice. And I went to that in a work capacity with Molly Makes, the craft magazine I work for. But I have got some purchases to show you and new things. I also went on a macrame class with the lovely Isabella of Tuomi, which was really fun, and helpfully I've hung it up. You can't see it, you can only see the tassels, so I'll show you that towards the end. I feel like there's something I've forgotten to tell you already. If you do enjoy the video today, please feel free to like or subscribe because it really helps get the video out there, and share the crochet love. So, what shall we start off with? I have one finished object today. This is the first finished object that I wanted to show you. I have done some, what is essentially crochet bunting. This is to go with a wider project, which is going to be uploaded soon, and I'm going to share pictures of soon. So this was almost like a little bit of, I don't even know what the word is, like styling, accompaniment to go with it. It's crochet bunting. I've used 3 different yarns, and the idea behind it was that it was in a kind of half moon shape. So I don't know if you're familiar with any of the kind of Scandi children's Instagram accounts, but the half moon motif is quite a popular one on children's. Well, look, I'm blending in, make a nice little collar. It's got a popular one, so that was what I was trying to go with for this, was a sort of nursery make, half moon shapes. It's 3 different colours, and so I've chained a big section in between the colours so that it can be hung in a kind of set of 3, and you can see all of the colours. So it's just a little quick one. I'm going to put it up as a free pattern on the blog. A bit of fun. Hey, I think I might even have the fancy zoomy thing now. Oh, are all our lives changed? If you've watched before, this will make sense. I always complain when filming on my iPhone that I don't have the fancy zoomy thing that everybody else has. Well, now I do, and it's thrown me. So yeah, that's just a little, really quick little bunting. I think that it would look nice in just one colour, strung the whole length of the wall. It's supposed to be that some of the moon shapes are smaller than others, and some of them are slightly deeper than others, but I think it looks quite pretty. I mean, this is probably the hardest way to display bunting, right? Doesn't this look attractive? But it's pretty much my only finished object, so that's what you're getting this week, folks. And I will also look out for pictures of the wider project, because I know it sounds really cryptic, the bigger project is really fun as well. The next finished object that I have, I can't show you because it was the commission I was doing for Molly Makes. It's going to be in issue 94, which I believe is out in June, so not too long to wait. And I'll show you my macrame that I did in my workshop with Isabella, because it's a finished object, right? So here she is. I booked onto a macrame workshop mainly because I've never done macrame before, and I wanted to treat my mum to a workshop for her birthday. I talk about my mum quite a lot on my podcast, or I feel like I do. She was basically the one who got me into crafts. She always had us doing loads of crafts every weekend, or I used to just go along to different workshops with her. And yeah, it's just something. She's run a patchwork and quilting shop for many years, so she's always going for a workshop. It's her birthday, I thought I'd treat her. And I've worked with Isabella of Tuomi on Molly Makes and a few other projects, and I saw that she was running workshops in Bristol, which is near where I live and work, at the Forge. I don't know if anybody's watched things. I've been to the Forge at Bristol. It's a really beautiful space. And so yeah, we booked tickets and I kept it a secret. And then a few weeks before we went, my mum and I were talking about crafts, and I think I was showing her an issue of magazine and different projects, and she said of macrame, oh no, it's the one thing that leaves me cold. It's the one craft I don't really want to do. I did enough of that in the 70s. I didn't even really twig until later on. I was like, oh great, that's the one thing I've booked her onto as a workshop. But we went, and I'm sure a lot of you can sympathise. Sometimes it's just nice to have an afternoon, or wait, it was a morning actually, to spend with our children around. So we both really enjoyed it, and Isabella, the tutor who I'm referring to, is such a sweetheart. She's really lovely. Go check her out on Instagram. This is what I made in the class. I sort of ran out of cord at the end, so I ended up with a bit of an interesting fringe section, but I'm really enjoying it, and it is suiting my neutral phase quite well at the moment. I've hung it up in my living room at home, and I've just gone all boho immediately. So that is a finished object, not crochet, but I think we can still categorise it in the fibre arts. Goodness me, I'm really nervous today from this new camera. I'm just not used to it. The next new thing I'm going to sneak into finished objects is actually just sellotape to the wall. And again, you can't even see it. You have seen this before. It's a little weave that I did to play with a new loom that Hobbycraft sent me. And actually, I've just really messed up the bottom in pulling it off the wall. So I need to sort that out. Look at that! Look what I've just done! What an idiot. Ignoring that, little loom, made this little weave, and I've just put the tutorial for the weave up on my blog. So I'm quite a beginner weaver. As I said, I normally am focusing on crochet. If it's the first time you're watching, it's not normally much weaving or macrame content, but yeah, I'm a beginner weaver, so I wrote it from a beginner's perspective. So it tells you how to warp up the loom and all the other bits and pieces, and how to do these little sumacs, which I think are just really nice as a little colour pop. I still need to attach mine to a pole properly and give these a trim, but the free tutorial is up on my blog if you do fancy checking it out. So again, sneaking that into finished objects because it's nearly finished in that it's on my blog. Ignore the ends. Moving on to works in progress. My main work in progress that I have been working on extensively is my crochet between the lines shawl. This is what I'm up to. It's getting really long now. I think that last time I showed you this, I was somewhere around this stitch marker. So I've put on a couple more rows. They're getting quite long now. I actually took some pictures of it yesterday, just to try and encourage myself to show how far I had gotten, because I think I worked it out. I was like, I'm nearly there. I think I still have about 50 rows to do. 50 rows suddenly seems quite a lot at this stage, but we are getting there. I'm still loving it. And the colour change now, because the rows are so much longer. So if you haven't seen this before, it's worked with Sheepy's Wells, which are gradient yarns. You can see it most clearly here, where it's changed from these two colours to these two colours. Quite subtle when you look at it on the whole, but yeah, it's quite high contrast at this section. Now that my rows are so long, the gradient obviously changes at the same rate within the yarn, but it changes a lot quicker across these long rows than it does at the beginning. So that's quite a good motivator. It's keeping me going. And I don't know, this sounds like a silly thing to say, but I'm really proud of this, just because there's so many stitches in it, and it's quite dense, which I like. It's definitely not a lacy shawl, but it just feels so like solid and a thing that I have made. Does that even make sense? It's like I've made a fabric rather than just making something quick and lacy. Yeah, so I'm really proud of it, even though it's not finished. It's almost wearable as a shawl in this way already. But when it's finished, yeah, this section's going to be a really big sort of asymmetrical triangle. That's not the name of a triangle, is it? Isosceles triangle. So yeah, looking forward to that. And it's lovely and warm here now in the UK. It's basically summer, but our evenings are still cool. So I'm positive I will get some wear out of it. And if not, I mean, this isn't a season thing, is it? I'm going to keep this for years and never lose it. Can you imagine? Has anybody ever lost something they spent a long time working on? It would be gutting, wouldn't it? So yeah, this has been my main whip alongside the commission I was doing for Molly Makes. I also do monthly projects for Hobbycraft and their Knitcraft team, so I'm working on one of those at the moment, which doesn't really make great content for Instagram and YouTube because I can't show you any of it, and I work nearly full-time as well, so opportunities to make and then have things to show you are increasingly few and far between. But hopefully, you know, you enjoy just seeing these balls of yarn repeatedly, because it takes me so long to ever finish anything. If you are interested, I am using Lavendelicious and Blueberry Bam Bam for my shawl. Look, I can't get enough of this zoom now. And this is what's left on them. So it still feels like quite a lot, but quite a tangle I'm in. And this project bag was made by my mum for me at Christmas. So that is my main whip. I might just keep it on for a moment. My other whip that I have been working on is down here, hopefully. It's my Atomic Flowers blanket, which is a free pattern that's already on my blog. And this is what I've joined so far. I am going to take it much wider, but I need to just work out how many final squares I've got now that I've joined them all. Yeah, I just need to work out what the final length is going to be, what kind of border I'm going to do, and deal with all these ends. I asked online the other day, do people tend to weave in their ends as they go or leave them to the end, because obviously I'm a leave till the end kind of person. But still loving these colours. This is my, basically it's supposed to be a scrap blanket, and it's going to be for my daughter's room, to use up scrap yarn. I had loads of balls of white, like cheap acrylic, which is partly why I chose that as the border, and partly because I think white is a nice colour to frame. But then, you know, when acrylic is so scratchy, it was not a nice white acrylic. And I talked about it months ago on here because I've been making this blanket since last June. And a few people said, or quite a few people said, just buy yourself some nice white acrylic yarn because life is too short to use scratchy yarn. And I did, because you were all so right. It completely defeated the object of using it up as scrap yarn, but it's just made it so much more enjoyable. Like, I'm still just using bog standard acrylic. I think I bought Stylecraft in the end, Stylecraft DK, but the one I had before was just unpleasant. It was unpleasant and I wasn't enjoying working with it. So most of this now is using Stylecraft DK for the white, and then just a real mix of different acrylics for the flowers. So as I said, that's a free pattern that's on my blog at the moment. It's called the Atomic Flowers Blanket. The pattern is actually for, the pattern that's on there is for the flower in the middle and then sort of one row of white to square it off around the outside, but it doesn't include the instructions for adding this extra row, and it doesn't include the instructions for the join as you go method. So I am half thinking about kind of pimping that tutorial and just filling out a bit more, maybe shooting some step-by-step tutorials. So if anybody would be interested, then that's something, yeah, that I have thought about doing and will probably happen at some point in the future. I'm having a little bit of a like to and fro at the moment because I really like to do patterns, and if I can sell them and make some extra money, then obviously that's a really great bonus. And I really enjoy like just sharing. So if it's something cheap, quick and easy and I can put it on for free, then I'm more than happy to do that. I'm also creating quite a lot of free content for Hobbycraft and their Knitcraft team, and this is like a moment of honesty that I hadn't really planned to talk about. I really enjoy doing it, and I love working with the other girls on the group. There's Emily from Makey and Tiam from Knit Safari, and then we've recently been joined by Helen of Made by Hand. But it does take quite a lot of work to put together a free tutorial each month, and basically the reason I do it is because they send me amazing yarns to play with, which I always share with you guys and tell you about, and I probably wouldn't get the chance to work with normally, which I love. But I'm also quite torn because with the amount of spare time I have, doing a free pattern every month is quite a lot of work, and it's free, so I'm not getting any money for it, and I'm never sure if what I'm doing here is my hobby or my job, because it's so closely related to my job as a craft editor that it all joins up and it all links in, and inspiration and everything overlaps, and I love it all. But I don't know if I would rather be focusing on my own patterns every month and trying to get more patterns out and selling more patterns. And often when I do the free patterns for Hobbycraft, I don't even then have time to put them up on my own blog, so I'm not even using the content in that way. It's just going on their website, so you guys can still access it on their website. But I don't know, it's really hard to know what to do. If anybody's watching who has an opinion or is a designer maker, what do you think is more important? The kind of, well, it's all important, isn't it? I want the community and the inspiration and the nice yarn, but I also want to focus on my own work and go in my own direction in the limited time that I have. I'm just trying to do it all, and I'm conscious that I can't, and it's not quite happening. It has to be a compromise somewhere. Maybe you could leave me a comment and let me know what parts of the podcast you most enjoy. Do you enjoy hearing about the yarns and the other bits and bobs, and do you like quick simple makes like I do for Hobbycraft, or are you here for the kind of longer makes and like the blanket patterns? And I really love texture and colour work and kind of detailed graph stuff. That's really what I would like to focus on, and maybe some more like kids stuff. I have loads of ideas, and some that I've started for homewares mostly rather than garments, like baskets and blankets and things, but also with a focus on kids stuff. So if I had unlimited time, that's the direction that I would go in. If you can help me out, if you have any thoughts on that spiel of consciousness, then hit me up and let me know. That is mostly it for whips. I'll just quickly show you one other thing that I started. Again, this is another weave, which is unusual. If you've watched before, you may remember me saying that some really beautiful yarn in somebody's D-stash, and it is knit collage yarn. I don't know how to make this zoomy thing work. Knit collage yarn, and I think this is their Gypsy Garden yarn. It is so beautiful. It's hand spun, and it's got sequins, Angelina, braid, and even flowers in it. And I wanted to do something really special with it. I only had one ball, I think it was 100 grams, but obviously it's so chunky, it gets used up quite quickly in crochet. Oh dear, I'm coming a cropper of my new camera already. I filled up my memory card. I was just talking to you about this yarn and saying how pretty it was, and how I was thinking about doing something that wasn't crochet with it, because I thought that crochet might use it up quite quickly. So I started doing a little weave with it, and it's supposed to be, I don't know if you can see, like a diamond twill pattern. You can sort of see there's a diamond here and a dot in the middle, and another diamond here and a dot in the middle, but I think that the yarn is almost too busy, and that you can't actually tell the pattern. You can't really see what the pattern is. So back to the drawing board with that one. Since going on my macrame course, I'm like, oh, maybe I can do some macrame with it. But again, I don't have that much, and when we did a macrame class, we had to cut, the cord was cut into like 3 meter lengths. I've got this, oh my goodness, this scissors attached to it. I've got this fun white. I've got this white, which is a similar weight, which I bought from Yarndale with the intention of doing some dyeing with it, which basically never got around to doing. So I did think that maybe I could combine these and do some kind of macrame or something, or some kind of non-loom weaving, or maybe I should just do crochet, might be easier. So it's kind of a whip. Really, it's just a pile of yarn, isn't it? I'm putting it in the whip section. We're low on things to talk about. Let's move on to talk about few things, because I did go to the handmade fair, as I said, with work last weekend, and it was really lovely. Had a great time. Definitely bought some things. I had quite a lot of time, really. I mean, we had a Molly Makes tent, and so we were selling subscriptions, and we had some really cool All Keely gifts giveaway. We were also doing workshops, free workshops every day in the Molly Makes tent, which I didn't have to run, but I was just there sort of chatting to people. And so I did have a fair opportunity to go out, and hilariously I took some cash with me because I thought that I might want to buy some things. I spent all on my lunch break, I went straight to the tent where they're selling everything and spent all my money on things, and I was like, well, that's fine, because I brought that money to spend and I knew that I was going to spend it. And then I realised that all of the food stalls required cash and not card, which was great because I'd spent all my money on yarn and things. I had to go back to one store where I'd been chatting with the lady for quite a while and do what essentially sounded like was scamming them, and ask them if I could pay for the yarn again on my card, if they could give me back the cash that I spent on the yarn, which they really kindly let me do. But I'd also been talking to the lady behind the stall. I'll show you her yarn that I bought in a minute. And when I went back, it was her husband. And I actually started the conversation like, this sounds like it's a scam, but it's not. Could I pay you again for the yarn and then you give me my cash back? Bless him, he let me, which was really sweet. So this is the yarn that I bought from their stall, and their stall is called their yarn is called Gorgeously Natural. This is it, and it's organic polwarth wool. This is their little, I don't know how well you can see that, sheepy logo. And it's 4-ply, hand dyed in Cornwall or with natural plant dye. So she had a gorgeous stall. I'll see if I can pop a picture in. And she was telling me what she used for all of the different dyes, and it was really interesting. So this one I believe is dyed with chamomile, and she dyed it in February of this year. I have no use for this, and I was at her stall for ages, and I basically decided I was going to buy some of her yarn because we were just having a lovely chat and there were so many gorgeous colours, and I couldn't decide and I couldn't decide, and I was really trying to say to myself, like, be sensible now. What do you need? What do you make? What do you want to make? What projects do you have in mind for 4-ply yarn? And I was so paralysed by indecision. I just kept returning to this one because the colour was so gorgeous and vibrant. And so that's the one I ended up getting. I do like mustard. You can see behind me, and you may remember if you've watched before, I knitted this in, the yarn was called now, it's from Woolly Mahusive, and it's called Palazzi something. Just mustard. I really like mustard. In fact, there's a little bit of a theme for my purchases. So I bought this chamomile yarn. It's really nice. It's just nice. Everything about it is nice, isn't it? I think we're all in agreement there. I also bought, this is a slightly strange on its own, but if you watched the last episode of my podcast, you may recall that I was talking about a doll that I wanted to make on the cover of Molly Makes, and she has roving for hair. So I was passing a stall, and I really unhelpfully can't remember the name of them now, but they had lots of, it was mainly for like a felting oriented stall. So they had lots of sheets of felt, but also wool tops and roving and different bits and bobs for needle felting. But this little ball was only £2 and was such a gorgeous colour that I thought, oh, that would look perfect. So I'm going to make this heirloom doll, basically. She's kind of a modern heirloom doll, so she's quite stylish, but I'm going to use my wedding dress to make her dress, and this is going to be her hair. So I'm really excited about that, and now that I've bought it, I'm basically making it one step closer anyway. I'm not just talking about it now. I actually have her hair. Next up, I bought this really cute little badge. Here, I will see if my fancy zoom works again. Has it worked? Don't know how well you can see, but it's a custard cream badge. Are custard creams a universal biscuit? Do you have custard creams in your country? This is like a popular biscuit, like a kind of traditional biscuit in the UK, and become a bit of an icon in its own right. I think we'd all agree, the custard cream. It's like a sandwich biscuit with what's supposed to be, I suppose, custard flavour in the middle. I never really think that it tastes like custard, but basically when you were a kid in the UK and the biscuit selection was not as glamorous as it is today, custard creams were all the rage. So you can get some really fun custard cream cushions now. Nikki Williams is the designer I'm thinking of. But this store, which was Upsy Daisy Crafts, she was selling biscuit budges. So she had bourbons, which are like the chocolate version of custard creams. And she also had jammy dodgers. I've just done that really badly. And so I bought myself a biscuit badge because it was just too fun. So if you haven't got the theme already, you might be able to see now. And then lastly, I bought, this is adorable, and I'm really hoping the zoom works for this. it's a stitch marker. Let's just see. How well can you see? Is my zoom working? He is a tiny waffle with butter. Basically, the world's most adorable stitch marker. He's so cute. He's so cute. I really hope that zoom has worked because I just can't, honestly. And so everything I bought turned out was the same colour, which I didn't really realise when I was walking around. I've temporarily forgotten the name of this lady. I think it was Your Tiny Charms or something, but I'll put it below on the screen when I edit, and then you can go and check out. She sells on Etsy, but she said to me at the handmade fair that she hadn't had a chance to upload a lot of her recent ones. But oh my goodness, like, she has a lot of food ones, so like this little waffle, and she had like egg on toast, beans on toast, I mean probably an avocado on toast, but she also had lots of mermaid ones and little clams with pearls in the middle and little faces, and little like tiny little buckets and spades with like adorable little starfish, and just everything was tiny and gorgeous. Little burgers, I'll put in some pictures because you just have to appreciate, even if you never buy stitch markers or ever want to in your life, you just have to appreciate how cute these were. So cute. I wanted to buy like 10, but as we've just established, I had already spent all my lunch money on yarn and stitch markers, and so I didn't have money to go back. But these are going to be like my go-to gift if I'm buying for anybody who likes yarn, which is not really any of my friends, but just adorable. Love them so much. So yeah, those are the things I bought at the handmade fair. I really enjoyed it, and I think I've only ever really been to Yarndale, which was the big yarny festival up in Yorkshire in the autumn, which I did enjoy, and it was basically a big shopping trip, but it was busy, really hectic, and I think they do workshops there, but I didn't do any. And it was felt just more really like a big shopping trip, and it was great because it was loads of indie dyers and people you wouldn't normally get in one room, but it was just a big shopping trip. Whereas the handmade fair, and this isn't a plug, I'm not trying to get you to go, I'm not on commission, they had a really big focus on workshops, which I thought was really nice. So there were like 4 or 5 different tents and places doing workshops, and then on top of that, a lot of the stall holders and tent holders like Molly Makes were offering workshops. I think ours were maybe like the only free workshops that I saw, which is probably why they were so popular. But I thought that was a really nice approach for a kind of festival vibe, to have such a focus on workshops, because I think it'd be the really nice thing to go to with like a friend or your mum or daughter or niece or whatever, or nephew, because you can kind of craft together and make together in a really nice setting. It was at Ragley Hall in Warwickshire, which I want to go back to just to look around the grounds because it was gorgeous. There's another one happening in June at Bowood House, which is between Bath and Bristol, and then there's another one happening at Hampton Court in September. So there we go. What else have I been up to? I went on my macrame workshop, and I also, I'm going to put this into the new things category, I did a live video with Katie Jones Knit, which I have yet to upload, so I might just end up uploading 2 videos this weekend, but hey ho, doesn't really matter. She is a really interesting designer. She studied knitwear specifically at university for like 7 years, so she did a BA and then a master's, and she went straight from there to working with other sort of fashion wear brands and working on sort of knitting machines and things. But she has a really interesting take on the industry. Most of my lives have been with kind of hobbyist crocheters who've turned their crochet into a hobby, and Katie kind of came at it from the other direction because she studied it and then she went into it as a career, and now she's launched her own brand. And when she first launched her own brand, she was very much luxury, high-end women's wear fashion, so selling sort of crochet jackets into Selfridges. They were selling them on for like £2,000, £3,000, so real luxury one-off pieces. And we talked about how that was good in that it was representative of probably the time and energy that goes into a piece, but how she has a real passion for sort of sustainable ethics, and how she wants pieces to be accessible to everybody. So she has now launched her own make it yourself range. So rather than selling exclusive pieces, she has now designed her own collection, but all based around the idea that you can make it yourself if you buy the pattern, which is a really interesting turnaround in terms of focus. So we talked a lot about that. She works with her mum, and they seem to have a really lovely relationship, so we talked about that. And she was also telling me what a dirty word craft is in the fashion industry, which I thought was fascinating. Obviously, I mostly talk to you guys and also on Instagram, where everybody loves crafts. Can't get enough of crafts. But in the fashion world, particularly sort of on the university scene, she said that her tutors wanted things to be crafted, but you couldn't use the word craft because it almost undermined it or made it sound less important, which I thought was really fascinating, because that just isn't the case amongst the craft community. Obviously we love it and celebrate it, so yeah, check that out. I will upload it this weekend. It's quite a long interview, and also we had a few technical issues where Katie's internet kept cutting out, and so I then had to try and plug and fill the gap, which was quite hard actually. Although I talk to you guys and ramble on, when you're interviewing somebody, you obviously are also relying on them being able to talk, and so I kept introducing new topics every time it cut out, and so our conversation went on and on and on. But it is a really interesting one. She also handmade her wedding dress and all her bridesmaids dresses using a 0.75mm crochet hook. And she's got some amazing pictures of her wedding on her feed, and we also talk about that quite a bit in the video. So go and check it out. Please, because it took me a long time to record it afterwards, and I then had technical issues, so I'm hoping that somebody will watch it and enjoy it, and let me know if you do. That is pretty much it for works in progress, new things and finished objects. Apologies again if it's too bright or if I'm too quiet. It is like doing a first podcast all over again. I'm just not used to talking into a camera rather than my iPhone, so I can obviously tweak those settings for next time. I'm learning as I go, and I really appreciate you watching and yeah, sticking around for the last year, particularly if you have been watching for a whole year. Maybe you could let me know if you've been watching from the start. That would be really nice. The diehards, or the people who accidentally stumbled across me and then for some reason kept coming back every time. I think it would be really nice to do a giveaway. I've also recently hit 3,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel, which is amazing. I'm really excited about that, so thank you so much if you're one of those 3,000. And just while I'm talking about it and thinking about achievements, I've also finally uploaded all of my patterns to Ravelry. So if you like to use Ravelry more than Etsy, you can now buy my patterns through Ravelry, and so hopefully you know, when people add it to their projects, there'll be more information, and if you have made one of my patterns, you can kind of link out with my Ravelry things now. So yeah, pod anniversary, 3,000 followers, subscribers, and patterns on Ravelry, and a new camera, which I don't know how to use that. We are ticking off the boxes. Thank you so much for watching this episode if you've made it to the end. Stay tuned next time. I will try and sort out a 3,000 subscriber giveaway. And yeah, have a really crafty 2 weeks until I see you again. If you have any questions or anything you'd like to ask me, either hit me up on Instagram or in the Ravelry group, or leave a comment below and I will get back to you below. Thank you so much for watching and spending some time with me. I will see you all really soon. Bye bye.